Is cybersecurity still worth it in 2026? Now, my answer is probably going to surprise a lot of you guys because it's not as simple yes anymore. The landscape has shifted so much in recent years. And I will go as far as to say, I think for some people, it's not worth it anymore. It's not the same as it used to be for some people. Now, who are these people? Well, before we get into that, what's changed? What has changed this year and in recent years compared to the way things used to be? Because back when I got into the field 10 years ago, the landscape was so different than it is now. Even back then, I will say though, people still made those comments of like, oh, try to get into pen testing. It's oversaturated. Like I heard that back in 2016, people were telling me that. What people called oversaturated then was nothing compared to what it is now. You have a lot of people fighting to get in. I would say that in those early days when I got in, there wasn't as much competition there. Fast forward to like 2020, 2021, there was the big learn to code movement, right? Like even your grandma was learning how to code. During that time, during the early days of that, almost everyone was so fixated on software development. You had a lot of people flocking to it because not because they cared about programming or cared about tech or anything, but just because they wanted to make a lot of money and they heard that like tech people make a lot of money, a high salary, and they got remote jobs and all that stuff. People were having, I remember, 2 or even 3 jobs. They were juggling them at the same time. But yeah, during those days, everyone was really focused on software development, but very few people were looking at cybersecurity. So even then, in the early stages of that, if you were someone that was targeting cybersecurity, there still wasn't that much competition out there. Now, a few years following that, maybe let's say 2022, 2023, 2024, definitely, we saw a huge uptick in the amount of competition to land these cybersecurity jobs. Those entry level roles started to shrink away, especially in the pen testing space, but also just across the board. And even before a lot of the AI narrative came into play and the layoffs started happening in mass at these tech companies, we were already seeing it was a lot harder for people to get into pen testing and cybersecurity. And that's when I really started seeing, like I would say like 2023, 2024, I really started getting a lot of people reaching out to me saying things like, I have OSCP and I'm not even hearing back for a single interview. I have my master's degree in cybersecurity and I'm still not hearing back. And that's when like the competition was getting pretty stiff. And one of the things that we cannot avoid anymore in 2026 is like all the mass layoffs that are happening at these tech companies. The narrative right now is it's because AI is replacing everything. It's because of AI. It's because of AI. Because of AI. I think a lot of that is just a scapegoat, to be honest. I know there's like competing theories on why these companies are saying that. But I think that by and large, at least right now, it's a bit of a scapegoat. They're not actually replacing those people with AI because I know so many people from the inside that are working at these companies. And also, I used to work at these, Fortune 500, big tech companies and big companies myself. They are extremely incompetent with using AI right now. That's going to change eventually. Even these, because a lot of these people are like boomers and stuff at these companies. They're not really that skilled with using things like AI, but that's going to change one day. Eventually, they are going to be. But I can tell you, as someone who's been sinking a lot of time into AI, that the capabilities of the tools are insane. What we have right now, I think the biggest barrier is not really the tooling right now. It's actually the people's lack of knowledge of how to use AI. You see a lot of, founders and startups and small companies out there, small businesses that are using AI in some really innovative and powerful ways. So I think that ultimately what we're going to see in the next several years, gradually companies are going to reduce their headcount of their cybersecurity teams. I think eventually we may even see it cut down to like 20% of what it previously was. These cybersecurity teams are going to shrink massively. By the way, if you're looking for training to be part of that 20% so you can upskill yourself so that you can make it into cybersecurity despite these challenges, because a lot of my viewers, if you're anything like me, I was really hell-bent on getting into pen testing specifically, like back in 2016, 2015, when people were telling me, don't get into pen testing, it's too oversaturated. I didn't let that stop me. I doubled down, if anything. If you're really still set on getting into cybersecurity, you want every advantage you can get, then definitely go down the link in the description below. Let's jump on a call. Let's see how we can get you into the skill set of someone that's in that 20%. so they can make that happen. That's one of the things I think is going to impact this massively is AI. And I already know people like Imran, people like John that I trained up in my program that are now working in cybersecurity, and they're using AI in their pen tests on the day to day. And they're even estimating like, yeah, they're like, yeah, I probably automated like 80% of the stuff that I was doing before. I just have AI do it. And I'm only focused really on the 20% manually. One pen tester told me they were like atrophying in like running certain commands and stuff because they just hardly ever have to do the manual stuff just on like the smaller, more crucial stuff. And like a lot of the commands they ran before, they have it completely automated through agentic AI, things like Claude Code and stuff like that. And my point is this. Cybersecurity is a cost sink. What do I mean by that? You could think of it in a similar vein as insurance. Companies do not make money from cybersecurity. They only prevent themselves from losing a lot of money if they have proper cybersecurity. So if a company can figure out how to do 80% of the work using AI and just hire, a few seniors to do the other 20% and end up saving a lot of money, they're absolutely going to do that. And that's why I think that the job market now, as bad as it is different than like the cyclical stuff, a little bit different than a lot of the cyclical stuff that we've seen before, because there's always been, peaks and valleys in, the job market. But I think this is what's fundamentally different is this technology, is this AI stuff, because it's disrupting pretty much every industry, not even just cybersecurity. All of tech has been rocked by this AI stuff, even though, there may be more or less truth to it with these big companies and like, are they really using AI? From my experience, a lot of these companies are so incompetent. They're still just like figuring out, oh wow, I can use AI to summarize my meeting notes. It's like they're all excited about that. It's like people that have been using AI for a while, they're like, that's like old news, right? I think a lot of them are really far from it still, but the technology is there and eventually they will learn and they will integrate it, and it's only going to get better from here. And so my point being is that I think it's very possible that we never go back to size of the security teams that we saw in the past. The unfortunate part is that the people that are being most impacted by this are entry level people at the lower, end of technical skill levels in this stuff. That's what AI is replacing the most, not just in cybersecurity, but in everything across the board. Even with like system administrators, even salespeople, right? It's replacing like your entry levels, but not the experts. So I think that it's even more important that you reach like a higher level of skill. It's going to be more competitive, more difficult. But also one thing that we should stop to think about before we just run off and say, okay, tech is cooked, cybersecurity is cooked, I'm going to move on to something else. There is one major wild card at play, and no one has the crystal ball to know how this is going to play out. But consider this for a second. All of the assumptions that we've made so far, all of the, reasonings that we would have to indicate that, things are going to get replaced, things are not going to go back, it's predicated under one singular assumption, and that is that AI and the technology that is offered up by these big companies like Anthropic, OpenAI, and all that is going to stay as affordable as it is today. And if you look around at the trend things are going in, that doesn't seem likely the case. AI, these companies are already kind of increasing the cost and reducing what you get for your spend across the board. They're kind of getting worse and worse over time. And the reason for that is you have to understand these big AI tech companies are massively funded by investors. So they're actually taking a loss. OpenAI, Anthropic, all these companies, these big companies are taking a loss on their product. And all these subscriptions are offering like, Claude Pro and ChatGPT Pro for $20 a month and their $100 a month, $200 a month plan. That is actually at a loss for them in most cases because especially the power users, these people are actually spending so much more in compute than what they're actually incurring as a subscription cost. So anytime someone buys like the $100 a month plan and they just like let it rip with a bunch of their tools, the cost that they are incurring on the tech companies is a lot higher than $100 a month. It's probably in the several thousands. But these companies are able to eat that cost because they are
heavily funded by investors. Now, eventually that investor money is going to dry up. And that is when it's going to be interesting to see what is the real cost of these AI models. And at that point, once we are paying the real cost, how effective is that in saving money versus just hiring an employee like we've already been doing? So that is a potential gotcha to watch out for that could potentially swing the job market back in the favor of tech and in the favor of cybersecurity, people trying to get in. But I think either way, the cat's out of the bag. We will be dealing with AI as a technology. We will be using it. So we absolutely need to learn how to use it. But that's just one of the gotchas that we got to keep in mind as well going forward.
With that said, though, the people that are really hell-bent on making this happen, getting into this field, those people are still going to succeed, and actually I'm seeing that in my own internal community in Elevate Cyber. We're still getting people interviews and getting them jobs on like a weekly basis. Actually, we just had a guy land a job a few days ago, accept an offer for a company on a contracting position, which is better than working for an internal company, in my opinion. You always get way better treatment, way better working conditions when you get into contracting. Yeah, this is something that if you are, and this was a guy that was super dedicated and super persistent. He had a passion for the craft, and even though it took longer than it did for me and for people back in the day when it was easier to get into, being persistent, there's going to be a place for you in cybersecurity without a doubt.
And yeah, we'll just start off with any wins anyone had they want to share.
I got one, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I suppose the big one is that I start my new job as an AI penetration tester tomorrow.
Oh yeah, man. That's awesome. Congrats again.
But I think the people where I said it's not worth it for them anymore are the people that, were part of the big movement of like, oh, I just want to get a cybersecurity job to make more money, to get a remote job. I don't really care at all about cybersecurity. I'm not really curious about the technology or any of that. I just want to make six figures. I think those people are going to boxed out of getting into the field now. Those are the people that, companies are just going to replace with AI. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comment section below. And like I said, if you want some help with this stuff so that you can position yourself as that 20% expert in the field and get some experience under your belt, then definitely check out the link in the description below. Now, the next question you might also be wondering is, okay, I think I have what it takes. I am dedicated on this. I'm finishing what I started. I'm getting into cybersecurity. I commend you for that. That's my mindset. That's always been my mentality as well. So if you are feeling like that right now and you just need to know like, okay, well, what are the next steps? What are the things I need to learn? Then check out the roadmap video that I have down in the description that is updated for 2026. It's going to cover exactly what you need to know based on your interest, based on your role, and let's get after it.